everybody, it's Catherine Sparks here, and I'm here to talk to you about the new moon that we have going on in Libra on October 16th of 2020. So if you want to hear more about it, stick around, like and subscribe to my channel, and see what it means for you. Okay, now we're in part 2 of the video, and we are going to talk about the aspects to this moon. For those of you who are coming from the last part, where you're a little bit of a beginner in astrology, we're talking about the conversation that the new moon is having with the other planets around the sky. And where those planets are give a flavor to the conversation. Just like where you're sitting, if you're sitting next to your best friend, you're gonna have a kind of your body and your discussion, your energy is going to be very different than a person that you're opposing, a person that you are challenging, or a person that's kind of making snotty remarks behind your back over here. It's a different energy based on where they are. So we're going to talk about the aspects now. Now, sometimes you have planets that are just surrounded by harmonious aspects. They're all sitting around a table and they're with friends and everything is fun and all of the energy is really just light and happy and everybody is singing together. This isn't exactly one of those moons. This is one of these moons where we are sitting around a table and discussing very serious things and everybody's challenging it. And our moon is our emotions. So the moon is very sensitive. A moon that has a lot of challenges to it is a very difficult thing emotionally. So the aspects that are most prevalent that I'm going to speak about for this moon is it is opposing Mars, the planet of action and energy and aggression and individuation, and also square Pluto and Saturn. Pluto is the planet of power and transformation, death and regeneration, sort of this phoenix, underground, underworld, potent energy. And Saturn is the planet of governance, of structure, of restriction, of limits and boundaries. So when you have the emotions across from action, energy, impulse, and both of those square to Pluto and Saturn, the way that I feel this particular configuration is if you ever watched Roadrunner, the cartoon, as a kid, and you saw the coyote get a little box, the little Acme TNT thing with the push lever, that is Pluto and Saturn. Pluto and Saturn together down here is dynamite in a box. And there's a little lead that goes over here to Mars, and he's the fuse. And our moon is our emotions that is holding the match, wondering whether or not to light it. So you see that this whole configuration is very combustible. Mars-Moon contacts always make us irritable and sensitive and make it to where we're very easily, we go from 0 to 10 very quickly. And it usually dissolves as quickly as it comes on if we give it a chance. But Moon-Mars contacts don't really make us inclined to do that. It makes us rash, it makes us irritable, and it makes us inclined to irritate and confront one another. So it really is an important time to remember that we are combustible in a very, very serious way. That's what the Moon, Mars, Pluto, Saturn mixture, this little triangle, is Coyote, Roadrunner, TNT, And you know, whenever the coyote would set off that TNT, it would never do the thing that he hoped it would. It would always make, you know, whatever boulder he was trying to explode fall back on his head. And that's very much this situation. This is not one of those situations where your fight will go the right way and you will be heard and understood, because we are all coyotes with our own little TNT plungers. And if I set off one, you're gonna set off one at me, and you're gonna set off one at someone. It's just a chain reaction. We're all gonna blow each other up if we do not have some sort of awareness of what's going on. So, yeah, watch Roadrunner. It's good education. Okay, and the second tricky thing that we need to navigate right now, which I would have made a video about it, but everybody else is talking about it, so I figured you guys didn't want to hear much more, but we do need to think about our beloved Mercury in retrograde. He is in retrograde again. No, it is still not the end of the world, but it is something that we have to take into consideration just now, because we are all in a very delicate time and a very activated time in history and in our lives, and astrologically, there's a lot going on. And Mercury is in retrograde in Scorpio, which is a very deep, dark, you know, deathy sign. Mercury retrograde in Scorpio makes you go inward and makes you not trust anyone but yourself, makes you very suspicious. It can be a little obsessive, a little bit plotting, kind of this conspiracy theory flavor. That's Mercury retrograde in Scorpio. Going inside being like, I don't trust any of y'all. There's something's out to get me. Something is going on and I'm gonna figure it out. And when it's imbalanced, it can lead to paranoia, right? It's just this kind of paranoid, dark mindset. That's a very easy place for our collective mindset to go till November 3rd, which is kind of interesting when Mercury goes direct again. Mercury's over here in Scorpio. Over here in Taurus, right across from it, in one of those challenging positions on the table, is Uranus. Uranus is in Taurus, and Uranus is like a lightning rod. He's kind of like a lightning rod and a bulldozer. He really comes in and he digs up the earth and pulls in electricity and just reorients everything. It's a very rebellious, revolutionary planet. And he can come in comfortably, but usually not so much. Usually, he's a bit of a revolution. And in Taurus, the sign of our values, the sign of our assets and money, on every level, we are restructuring what it means for something to be valuable. And so this conspiratorial mindset, Mercury, across from Uranus, that is redefining our value system. This really sets us off. This really makes it so that we are feeling very threatened. We're easily threatened, and there's a lot of rhetoric going on that is threatening and scary. And, you know, if you live in America, for example, during election times or during politics, when you hear all these ads about, you know, everybody's approaching something from an angle, and that Scorpio retrograde Mercury really feels that there's an angle being played, but doesn't really know what the truth is. If an angle is being played at you and you know your truth, there's nothing scary about that. But Mercury retrograde in Scorpio really makes you just not trust anything. And then Uranus in Taurus really activates that fear. So we really have an uprooted sense of security. We really have a threatened state of survival, as if we didn't already know that. But this aspect makes that stronger. that threatened state. We're in survival mode and we're not really trusting anybody. And then we've got that last aspect that we talked about, where we all have our little TNT boxes and we're ready to blow each other up. The things we need to remember, the things we need to do, is we need to try to disengage from news, social media, just commentary that is inflamed or trying to make us feel a certain way. We need to disengage from that for a little while. We need to really focus on things intentionally. We need to make sure that we are putting our minds on things that we want to think about and that we want to focus on. And if we are focused on something that is a matter of public discussion or, any kind of media, that we really ground ourselves before we engage with that. It's going to be easy to get in our own little feedback loops, that conspiracy theory kind of mindset right now. So you really want to engage yourself with things that are visions of what you want. Think about the positives, think about the pros, think about the future, and engage with those thoughts instead of thoughts of fear or anger or, disgust, which we all have plenty of fodder for right now. Really, really being intentional with your thinking. Go over your beliefs. Make sure that, and the last aspect that I'm going to talk about before I get into the signs is the ruler of Libra. The ruler of this moon is Venus. Venus is currently opposite of Neptune. This aspect, it can be a blessing or a curse for us right now, and I'll tell you how. This aspect is our pleasures and our desires interacting with the quantum reality around us. So it can make us very dreamy. It can make us very dreamy in a good way, dreamy in a bad way, sort of inspired and open, or kind of hazy and easily fooled. So it can create a lot of confusion. It can also make you a little bit susceptible and gullible. So what you want to do with this energy, what you want to focus it towards and work with it on, is trusting, creating, believing something that you want to believe. But you have to do that with intention. You have to do these exercises where you're raising your vibration by imagining what you want and not by imagining all the things that could go wrong if what you want doesn't happen or if what you don't want happens. So the visualization is really important right now. It can be really great for bolstering your morale through things like music. Put on music to influence your mood. Put on videos. Watch some Netflix. This is a wonderful aspect for any kind of cinematography, for the combination of the visual aesthetic with the imagination. The imagination is wild with this aspect. So watching movies about things that you want, watching movies that make you happy, watching movies that make you hopeful, listening to music that lifts you up, that makes you believe, reading poetry, anything that is creative, engaging with arts that really lift up your sense of self and purpose and vision. This is a great aspect for vision. But on the flip side of that coin, it can also have a sort of hallucinatory effect. It can make you believe that the monsters under the bed are real. And that belief can make you act in ways that are desperate or survivalist or brash. And all of those things that we said before about Mars and Pluto and Saturn and the moon, we don't want to scare ourselves right now. Because collectively, we're very inclined to sort of overreact. We don't want to do that. So we want to be very careful as to the narratives with which we engage. Remember this, because we all live in our own little feedback loops. We only get certain things put in front of us. We only see people that agree with us. And it's very easy to become a runaway train with that. We all want to make sure that we have our feet on the ground, both in our heart and our head. And Venus, Neptune will make you tell stories, and it will make you also fall in love with the stories that are told to you, or fall in fear with the stories that are told to you. So be imaginative. Know that your imagination is very, very fecund right now, very fertile. And just the seeds that you plant in it have to be very intentional. So that's Venus, Neptune.